David, you've got a very big role as Executive Director of the JCCV, a role you've held since January 2013. What have been the biggest challenges in the intervening period?
Well, I think there's been particular events that have been very challenging. I think the period from when the three boys were kidnapped in Israel and murdered has been very difficult. I think then the Gaza conflict has been a difficult period, and we've had particular incidents over the time period which have caused community stress, whether they be anti-Semitic or other events externally that worry people in the community, events that are happening in Europe that make people worry about what's happening here, or events in the Middle East that make people worry about here. Those have probably been the main things that have created issues and concerns for us and for the community.
How would you define your role?
I think my role is largely twofold. Partly it's education, not necessarily doing it myself, but bringing people together to educate people externally about what Judaism is, the needs of the Jewish community, through education, understanding and creating friendships externally. It's much better in terms of service delivery from like pastoral carers or healthcare professionals, police, media, if they understand the Jewish community and what we are, that we're not some boogeyman or some stereotype. And the other part of the role is collaboration, bringing together either external organisations or organisations internally to make things happen. So collaboration within the community has happened on things like pastoral care, where we've brought organisations together to work on improving pastoral care delivery for Jewish patients at hospitals. Collaboration also in terms of child protection training. We've had ultra-Orthodox sitting next to a lady rabbi with a pink yarmulke, through to completely secular Orthodox rabbis, Orthodox shuls, progressive people, secular, all working together in a common cause. And we've had a lot of instances of those sorts of things where we've worked together across the community, whether they be affiliates or non-affiliates, working on important issues. Externally, probably one of the best examples of where we've had collaboration is we've got 35 community organisations from various faiths, various communities, Chinese, Hindu, Sikh, Vietnamese, Victorian Council of Churches, etc., to help us advocate against the repeal of the Racial Discrimination Act, Section 18C. And that was successful, and it was a great win for the community.
What excites you about the role?
I think being able to get positive change for the community. I think being able to take a leadership position on certain important issues, and in making social justice changes. For example, our work with the GLBTI working group, where we, again in a collaborative way, we got 20 community organisations together from the Jewish community to sign up to the No to Homophobia campaign. And that was a campaign where no other faith organisation across Australia signed up, and yet we were able to get 20 Jewish community organisations of various types all to come on and say we should be treating people from the GLBTI community with respect and decently, and homophobia was not acceptable. And that sort of thing, I think, is a positive change and sends a positive statement to people who otherwise might feel or might disaffiliate with the Jewish community and feel alienated.
Any job has its frustrations. What are yours as Executive Director of the JCCV?
I think the biggest frustration is, I think like in any job, people with unreasonable expectations, but then it's just a matter of working with people, communicating with people and working through their expectations and their understanding. Often the unreasonableness comes from a lack of understanding of either what we're doing or what someone else is doing. Very often these frustrated people are coming to us complaining about something that some other Jewish organisation's done or someone in the media's done. So it's a matter of taking some action to educate or change the understanding of somebody else.
How do you build somebody's education base? Somebody who has a dogged position and you're trying to change and remove that intransigence?
Sometimes it's just a matter of meeting. Sometimes it might be a number of meetings. Sometimes it might be, if we don't have good relationships, it might be formal letters and formal meetings, sometimes maybe working with government organisations to help facilitate cooperation. In some cases, it's, we actually might do an immersion day, what I call immersion days, where we take people from politics, or we've taken pastoral care workers, and they might not be very anti, but it's a preventative measure that we take them across Jewish institutions. We might take them to a synagogue, to the Jewish Museum, to the Holocaust Centre, to Beth Weitzman Centre, and we present them a cross-section of Jewish culture and Jewish religion, and so they can better understand where we're coming from, and then we can have discussions about issues that are in concrete that are affecting or dividing people.
Operationally, in terms of what more you'd like to achieve, perhaps you can outline that.
Yeah, I'd like to do more with education and doing these sorts of immersion days with Victoria Police. We have a very good relationship with police at high level. We have a very good relationship with police at local stations that affect us. And I think we could do a bit more in terms of helping the police, who we don't necessarily have most contact with, these individuals, who we can bring together and take them on this sort of educational program to better understand the Jewish community. We could also do the same sort of thing potentially with media and journalists and editors, so they better understand the community and how what they do affects us as a community and as individuals.
We're becoming a more and more diverse community. I'm talking the broader community, in terms of bringing in more and more immigrants, contributing to society as a whole. Does that make the JCCV more or less relevant moving forward?
I think more relevant. As the community becomes more diverse, it's more important that we all work together, because we have a lot in common with a lot of communities that come to Australia, like the Indian community or the Chinese community or Vietnamese, or even some that are coming from Africa and the Middle East. We have some common history in terms of being migrants, being a community that's escaped from awful situations, whether it be in the Middle East or in Europe. And we also have a common interest in working together to ensure that we don't have racism, that we can work and live together, raising our kids in a safe environment where we can practice our religion, whatever it happens to be, where we can live in harmony together, and we can work together to confront whatever obstacles come along. And to that extent, we organise meetings and dinners and events with other communities and other faiths, whether it be the Catholics, the Buddhists, the Chinese, the Indians, etc., to work together, and so that when there is a concrete issue, we have friends we can work with.
How would you describe the relationship between the Jewish Community Council of Victoria and the broad Victorian Jewish community?
I think we have a very good relationship. Not every organisation is a member of the JCCV, but we work with organisations from a DUS, a Yeshiva, the Council of Orthodox Synagogues, through to Progressive Judaism Victoria, Jewish Care, Emmy Monash, and completely secular organisations, as well as providing, although we're not a service delivery organisation per se, we do help individuals. For example, if there are people coming to Australia to work, quite often they'll contact us first and we can direct them in the right way to go. If people have issues of anti-Semitism, sometimes they'll come to us and we can direct them to the Anti-Defamation Commission. If there's issues of security, we can direct them to the right place. So when members of the community have issues, we can help act as a signpost of where to take them to, or there might be a case where we need to get various organisations together to help somebody.
Israel, does it play a part in your thinking day to day?
Especially at the moment, we talk Israel every day, and we're often organising speakers on Israel or speakers for other organisations on Israel-related issues. And whenever we're advocating, whether we're meeting with the police, whether with government or with the media, we're always trying to make sure that a reasonable, rational and balanced, honest standard and of discussion on Israel happens, that we can present the facts and dissuade people from the rubbish that gets talked about, and so that people can make their own decision based on the reality, not in some media bias or because of some social media campaign.
To sum this up, if in a few words you could describe what it is that you would like to achieve while you are Executive Director of the JCCV, what would that be?
I'd like to see us reduce the level of anti-Semitism in the community, get things back to a more harmonious environment. I think we're doing very well considering what's been happening overseas. Melbourne and Victoria have been a place of light in where there's lots of darkness happening around the world. And I would like to see more collaboration with other communities externally and more collaboration within the community to work in a more strategic way.
May it be so. Thank you for your time, David.
Thanks, Alex.